Now, we don't really have an agenda as such to discuss, but to kick things off, I just want to share 3 points that we want you to be thinking about as we go through our workshop today. The firstly being the modern workplace. Now, there's no getting away from it. The world has definitely changed in the last 18 months, whether we've been touched directly or whether we believe in COVID or not. The facts are that businesses are and are going to continue to need to change to meet customer and employee needs and expectations. So for the foreseeable future, that means there'll be less face-to-face meetings. In fact, just yesterday, I was elbow bumping someone, but that was unusual. There'll be less or smaller office spaces from us to work from, and definitely be a lot less travel. What this has meant for many businesses is that some technologies that we've all had for a long time have come to the surface as the primary tools that are going to replace these things where there's going to be less of. So we should be leveraging those tools right now, especially around the calling and the video conferencing, keeping those lines of communication open. The second thing we want you to be thinking about is around the BT analog network switch off. So BT are switching off the old phone network and everything is changing to what we call IP based, meaning it will go across the internet. Now, when we consider what the pandemic has done to businesses, the timing of this from BT's point of view must be perfect. And what's facilitating this for them is the fact that most of us now can get faster fixed line broadband at our homes and at our offices. And also the evolution and expansion of 4G and 5G is enabling BT to achieve this. So this switch off means that businesses need to be planning now what to be able to do what's necessary when needed. So by getting ahead and implementing a modern workplace now, you'll be ready well in advance. In fact, let's just have our first poll of the workshop. Before you saw our workshop message go out, whether it be through email or social media, and you're in attendance this afternoon, were you aware of BT's plans to totally switch off the traditional analog phone network, including your phone lines and the current method that BT used to deliver broadband to you? Were you aware of this? We can see some results coming in now. We'll just give you a few seconds and then we'll share those. Some people may not have been aware, and others may have heard some numbers banding around. In fact, there's lots of numbers being banded around at the moment. Climate change, electric cars, broadband, you name it. Okay, let's share those results, please, Steve, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, so we can see there actually that almost half were not really aware of this big switch off that BT have announced, and Kevin will go into a bit more detail about that. So hopefully that's whetted your appetite a bit more for what we're going to be talking about. So the other point we want you to be thinking about throughout our webinar, as well as the BT analog switch off, is also the topic around what is VoIP. Now, we did some research a few weeks back to see what businesses search for on Google when they're looking for a modern telephone system. And it's interesting that this phrase VoIP trumped all other possibilities. Now, it's interesting because those letters are a technical acronym, but that means that the fact that business owners, decision makers, people like you are searching for that phrase, it means you have knowledge about this topic. So VoIP, or voice over IP, is something that we are all using on a daily basis. Your existing phone system may already be a VoIP system. If you're using Zoom or Teams, effectively, they're using VoIP for the audio element of your call. And if you live out in the sticks like I do, where there's very little mobile service, well, your phone has got a feature most likely called Wi-Fi calling. And that's using VoIP to carry your voice conversation over your internet connection at home to the other end of the line. But the big question we're going to answer today is how can VoIP be leveraged as part of the modern workplace to improve your employees' productivity and also improve the experience your customers get when they engage with you. So, and who are we without our customers? Now, as stated, we're not going to be going through all of these points of the presentation. There's going to be a number of polls and interaction. But these 3 points we've just discussed here, the modern workplace, the BT switch off, and what is VoIP, are the background to our workshop. And they're important topics because you should be considering these as part of your business growth strategy and your improvement processes. There's a lot of information we won't have time to cover this afternoon. So at the end of our webinar, please use that Q&A, as we've mentioned, or make a note of your question. And if you want to book this free review, which we'll follow up about, you can raise that question directly with us. But before I introduce Kevin, I just want a quick science lesson from my 9-year-old. Last week, he decided to tell us at the family dinner table all about what he'd been learning at school. And he loves all the sciencey type stuff. He's a real brain box. Now, what he was learning that day was about the human brain's ability to communicate. Now, he's only 9, so his depth and understanding obviously is quite shallow compared to maybe some of our own. But he was just blown away with just how clever our brain is when it comes to communication, compared to, say, for instance, a chimpanzee, which rates very highly in the animal world. And scientists acknowledge that our brains are genetically pre-programmed for language development. And you just need to go to a bookshop or look online. The sheer number of books written by so-called experts about how to communicate demonstrates that communication is a huge part of our daily life. There's so much more, though, to communication than just the words that we choose. The how we communicate is also a highly complex process and affects a lot about the results of our interactions with people. So from a business standpoint, if we are not communicating using the right tools in the best way possible, well, the fact is we won't succeed. A very famous composer, John Powell, he said, communication works for those who work at it. So we hope that today's workshop will show you some of the benefits you're going to see by working on communication, and in particular, by using the right tools in the right way for the right job. So Kevin Turner, he's one of our business communications experts. He's going to speak to you now about the benefits of using a VoIP telephony solution in a modern workplace.
Thank you very much, Paul. Excellent. Thank you for introducing our workshop for today and getting us started. So, as we can see from this first slide from myself, the big BT switch off. This is what it's all about. This is why we're holding this workshop, to hopefully you'll go away from here better informed as to what it is, why it's happening, and what we need to do in our businesses. So in our first poll, it was interesting. Most people know that the switch off is, or half know that the switch off was happening in 2025. Some maybe not so sure they've heard about this. But Steve, can we pull up our next poll? Because BT have announced the switch off, but let's just have a little indication. When do you think they did this? When did they let us all know that they're going to switch off the telephone network here in the UK? Let's get a few moments for you just to have a guess and have a stab at that and see what we think. Good. Still a few little results coming in, see when you think. So, Steve, if we can share the results of that, what have we got? So there we go. They're up on the screen now. So 33%, a third of us, 2017, and then a few of us are going for the other dates. Now, it is interesting because 2017, thanks Steve for that, was the date that BT announced it. And obviously, we can't blame you for if you haven't heard about it, didn't know quite when it was that they announced that. But 2017 was the date, and that was obviously nearly 4 years ago. So what's been happening along the way since then? What have BT been doing? Well, they've put out some milestones, been working behind the scenes, because if that was 4 years ago nearly that they made the decision to do it, 2025 is just over another 4 years to go. So they're halfway through since making the announcement. And so as businesses, we all need to understand the impact of this analog switch off and what provisions that there are for us to deal with it. So the first phase, or one of the phases, should I say, that BT have initiated is what they are calling the stop sell. That's what they call it, the stop cell phase of the ISDN and the analog line switch off. So in certain exchange areas, geographically, up and down the country, you will no longer be able to order new analog or ISDN services. Now, they did a trial of this back end of last year, completed around October in Salisbury, was a trial site where they rolled out FTTP or fiber to every premises so that they could get the whole place of Salisbury off of copper and to see how that would go for a completely fiber city there of Salisbury. And Mildenhall was another area that they've started that, and to do a WLR switch off, in other words, to cease all new orders of the copper services, what will become the legacy copper services. So that's happened. Stop sell happened for Salisbury in December last year. June this year, another batch of exchange areas went into stop sell. I'll go on to explain more what that means, what can't you order. But here's just a quick roadmap. The next milestone will be October this year. Another batch of exchanges up and down the country will go into stop sell January next year, April next year, and by September 2023, the whole of the UK will go into stop sell. You will not be able to order the legacy products, analog lines, etc., and we'll bring up a list of those, exactly what that means, because what are the implications of this stop sell? Okay, so for any new orders, if your exchange, which could be as soon as, if it hasn't already happened to you up till now, if that happens from October or throughout next year, but by certainly all of us by 2023, we will not be able to order any new ISDN lines, 2s or 30s. We won't be able to order an analog line for our homes or our businesses. We won't be able to order ADSL broadband or super fast FTTC broadband. All these products will become legacy. There are old services that BT will not process any new orders at all for any of us, certainly from 2023. Now, when it comes to existing services, it may be that you feel, well, I've got the first one mentioned there. I've already got a copper voice line, a telephone line. Can I add broadband onto it? No, you won't be able to. Would I be able to migrate my broadband, for example? Any migrations, ADSL to FTTC for increased speed? No. Bandwidth modification, if we've got a 4010 circuit, sorry to get a bit technical there, but we want to up the bandwidth to an 80 meg download, won't be able to do it. If I've already got ISDN channels, I might have 2 channels or 4 channels. Can I up that to 6? No, you can't. I've got 3 analog lines in my business. Can I add another one, a 4th one? No, you can't. And interestingly, on that last point, after 2023, you will not be able to transfer any of your existing services you have to a new provider, to a new communications provider. You'll be locked in. So it really does warrant us giving this some thought, because we'll be locked in if we're not happy with their service, the service of your provider now, or their price gets a bit expensive. You'll be locked in for that product with them, and you won't be able to go searching for any other new providers, because BT Openreach will not do the transfer for you to another communications provider. So we need to keep a watch on that, keep an eye out for that. You don't want to be left trapped with a supplier you're not really working that well with. Okay, so with that in mind, what's going to happen after that? Well, then we get out right up to 2025, where there is going to be the switch off. So can we just have another poll, Steve, if you can pull up the next poll for us? So can we just ask, just to get a feel for our audience today, which of the services does your business currently use? It's just a anonymous voting, just to see, have you got an analog line, ISDN, ADSL, superfast broadband at home, in your business, whatever? Or do you have fibre to the premises? Just give you a few moments to submit those. Okay, thanks, Steve. Can we see the results there? Thank you. So, of us today, 64% have at least an analogue line. Could be a fax, could be a broadband on it, or we've got ISDN or a broadband product. These broadbands, ADSL and FTTC, remember, sit on top of a telephone number, a normal line, and they are going. So will those broadband connections. So we will be affected in this way. So let's, thanks, Steve. We can move that. So December 2025, what's going to happen? Well, when BT do that switch off, it's just going to be that big black hole. When you go to pick up that telephone that's connected to your analog line, there'll be no dial tone. It will be completely dead, and any services that we think we have. So when we start to think about this, that's businesses that run lifts, the lift phone. Well, what's going to happen to that? It'll be dead. So we need to be sure that they, before you get in a lift, make sure that they've done something about that. The alarm lines that go through to monitoring stations with auto dialers, your EPOS machine for those in retail or take credit cards, are they on the internet system now through the Ethernet, or are they on a dial-in? Plug-in line, your fax, your franking machines, healthcare products that with monitoring, press a button to call someone. All these will not work if they're plugged into the analog lines, because they will be no more. So something for us all to think about, how is it going to affect us and our businesses? So to summarize, this is what we'll end up with in 2025. All calls that we make in the UK will be voice over IP. They will be routed through the internet, not the PSTN, the public switch telephone network. So instead of our phones being plugged into a BT socket, they will have to be plugged into a broadband router to make a call wherever we might be, or through 4G or 5G. Now, internet connectivity, this will be FTTP. BT have a program to go around all the exchange areas and make sure that every premises is connected by fibre. That's the future of where they want to be. Now, the switch off is going to happen before they get round to all of the premises. As you can imagine, that's a lot of work for them to do. And we can ask the question, but why are they actually doing this? Well, because the equipment in the exchanges has become end of life, and it's costly for BT Openreach to run the two networks. So they are moving everything over to fibre and running an internet network, not a switching network for voice calls. That's why they're making it redundant and want to switch it off. Now, the question arises then, well, what if they haven't got fibre to my premises by 2025? Well, in the interim, and these are available now, these are the replacement products for your ADSL and your FTTC products. So the first one there, SOGEA, stands for, sorry for the acronyms within telecoms. SOGEA is the single order generic Ethernet access. You can get that today. It's available at 28 million different premises up and down the UK. At PS Tech, that's what we offer. It's a better solution to go for now, really, in many respects, because at the moment you're paying for your telephone line with a telephone number that's got that dial tone on it, and then you're paying for broadband on top. So it's more expensive. This is a single order, one copper pair, and it just does broadband. There is no dial tone, there is no telephone number, so it's cheaper. And because it's not running a telephone line down it, the call frequencies don't interrupt it. So it's a better connection. You don't get people plugging in phones without filters and upsetting that broadband. So it's better. And if you had a supplier at the moment for your line rental and a different supplier for your broadband, and it goes wrong, two suppliers. it's longer fixed times, isn't it? Who's to blame? Is it the line? Is it the broadband? What's happening? So that fixes all of that, and so GIA is available today. If you've got one of the BT cabinets very close to your premises, be that your home or business, maybe 1 to 200 meters max is a good distance away from the cabinet, then you can go for the single order GFast, still a copper product into your premises for that last bit, but you will get 300 up to 330 megabits there. So that's good. So that's what's happening, why it's happening, and the different products that are going to be available to us to make sure we are ready. But what we want to now really talk about is the calls, not so much the connectivity. We can pick that up with you in your personal review as to what's best for your business for internet connectivity. But let's have a look at the benefits of choosing to route our calls using VoIP today. Why wait till we get the problem of being in a stop cell area or for the switch off, and there's going to be a massive panic of everyone wanting to try and keep their numbers and get over to VoIP all at the same time in the last minute rush. Let's avoid that. Let's have a look at some of the benefits for doing that today. You can see some of them there. We're not going to cover all of these, but the cost effectiveness, a lot more cost effective than using ISDN lines and a traditional phone system if we're using a VoIP system or a hosted telephony system, as it's known as. We get HD sound quality. It's got a host of features. It's flexible. It can be accessed anywhere. And the reliability and the portability is so much better. So let's just pick up on a few of these, not just to looking at features, but what are the benefits to our businesses today? What's going to improve our customer service, increase employee productivity, and make your teams more efficient as you move towards a modern workplace? Because that's going to make for a better business for all of us, isn't it? So we're going to be focusing on those particular areas now. So let's have a look at our first one. And what I want to do is introduce you to Bob. Here's Bob. He runs a successful accountancy firm, and he's based in London, and there he is with his team. We know he's successful because from the flip chart in the background, you'll see his sales there are just going up and up. So he's doing really well, but he has an office-based telephone system with ISDN lines. So to prepare for the switch off, he now wants to move to a hosted telephony system and use VoIP. Now, Bob, he's had his London 020 number for a number of years now, and he wants to keep it. Well, that's no problem, because with a process called number porting, PS Tech or any other of his communication suppliers will be able to move his number from that traditional ISDN line over to his new hosted telephony platform. So he gets to keep his number. Now, things have been going quite well in the business, and Bob has a vision to grow the business and the geographical spread of his business to attract more clients in different areas. Now, what he wants to do is aim a marketing campaign in Birmingham and Manchester. So absolutely no problem there. We can give him a Birmingham number 0121 and a Manchester 0161 and just overlay them straight onto his new hosted telephone system. What does that mean for Bob? Well, he can actually now do marketing campaigns, be that by social media, by email, by printed directories that monthly he finds out they get put through potential customers' doors. He can put telephone numbers on those and track the return on investment from each of those campaigns, run a report daily, weekly, monthly, and see where his new business is coming from, how much is coming from the different streams that he's advertising. So that's going to help him out with the further marketing for his business. Now, what if Bob wants to move office in the future himself? Well, before, with an ISDN line And that 020 number, particularly in London, if you were to move just round the corner, you could find yourself in another exchange area and you have to give up that number or do a clunky divert onto new numbers that BT would have given you. Not with hosted. He can move anywhere, just pack up his desks, his PCs and his phones, plug them in at the new address, and all these numbers 020, 0121, 0161 will just carry on ringing just where they were before. So he keeps on trading in that way, no disruption to his business. And if Bob ever wanted to go international, not a problem, because we can supply him with international numbers and give him a local presence in some 65 different countries. So that will be a local number then for each of those potential clients, to them, to their country, but ring straight into Bob's office here in London. It's all seamless, no diverting from to a desk phone or a mobile. Bob won't be asking, where's this call coming from? Is it a personal call? Is it a business call? They're all identified from where they are coming from, and he knows exactly what it's about. So it makes him flexible and seamless, and all his colleagues can work from any device and identify all these different calls from different telephone numbers. So that leads us nicely now into what devices are available for Bob on his new hosted telephone system. Well, with Bob's previous PBX system, he only had a phone on the desk. That's all it was. And of course, with his new hosted, he can have exactly the same. So here we see a desk phone that will just plug into the network or via Wi-Fi, and that's his desk phone. But Bob thought it would be a good idea to be able to walk around and take calls. He likes to walk around the office. He likes to be in the staff room and take calls. And so he can use a cordless phone. This can be a cordless phone on its own. It can have a desk phone and the cordless. Same extension number. They will both ring together, and that will work really well for him. But you've got to ask the question, does Bob need a physical handset at all? Why not use a soft phone on a PC, a laptop or a Mac, and just plug a headset in? You may be able to see from this little screenshot here, you'd just have a bit of software on your device. With your keypad there, you can just punch the numbers in to make a call. You can copy and paste numbers and make calls. You can see all your colleagues and staff, whether they're on the phone, free, available, do not disturb, diverted to voicemail, etc., and have instant message chats with them. Hosted phone systems do all of that just with a headset plugged into the laptop. And finally, Bob could have a mobile app. A hosted solution turns your mobile into an extension of the office system. And when you make the call out from your mobile, it's the office number, Bob's 020 London number, that will be displayed, keeping his mobile number private. So that's of benefit to him. And again, he can see all members of staff, he can take business calls, answer them, transfer them to his staff, and of course his staff can do the same back to him. Now, when you look across the spread of these devices from desktop, cordless, soft phone and mobile app, they can be used anywhere. They are not limited to a physical location, such as an office. So, such as during this current pandemic, working from home becomes so much more efficient for our staff, whether they spend some time in the office and some time at home, because flexible working, I think, is here to stay. I'm sure you'll agree. But over the last 18 months, too many times, I've called up a business, asked to speak to someone, and they say, they're working from home today, so sorry, I can't put you through. How inefficient is that? So we can get around that by using this hosted system and any device connected to the internet, and those calls can be made and received, keeping our staff answering all our clients' calls. And if the office has to close completely for whatever reason, could be another natural disaster. I've had a load of rain in London the other day, which caused a lot of flooding. People couldn't get around as easily as they thought they might, and in these flash floods. Not a problem. Again, from anywhere, the system will run. You can even log in through the portal and set the calls to ring anywhere else as well. Just that complete versatility and flexibility about having a hosted system. Not diverting, it's not a phone call to BT with an ISDN. I've got a problem. Can you divert my calls to this mobile? And then, of course, once you do that, you can't do anything with them. That person has to take all the calls and cannot transfer them. But the modern workplace, it's different. Businesses who are focused on giving this first-class customer service need to adapt and embrace this new technology. So let's move on to another one. Voicemail, it's not new. Bob had this in his old PBX phone system. Some businesses say, well, they don't really like using voicemail. For Bob, his problem was customers were leaving voicemail messages, but his fear was they weren't being picked up. They were being missed. So what can we do there? Well, there's a very important customer. He's rung in. He was ringing Bob's DDI there, and he had to leave a voicemail message because Bob is not in the office. He was previously engaged. He's out and he's in a meeting. And here we see what we can do, because when someone leaves a voicemail message for us, that can be an external caller, like in this example. It could be an internal colleague. You might just use voicemail messages for internal use between your staff. But as soon as that voicemail message is left, Bob gets an email. And attached to that email is the full recording of that voicemail. So he can make that decision then whether to call that person back and what to do with it. If he is in a meeting, or he's in the cinema, or he's in a place where he can't actually use his phone or be seen to be on the phone because it would be causing a nuisance, we have transcription now on our hosted systems. So within the email, the technology will transcribe the voice message to text, and we can read that message on our email. So nice and easy to do. So Bob, when he thinks about his old system, he struggled with the incoming call handling. So let's look at that next to see how we can help him. So let's have a look at call queuing. So how can you really make a difference to the customer service when it comes to incoming call handling? So here we have clients, customers, patients, whatever that you refer to your customers as, and they want to make calls in. Now before, if you only had 2 analog lines with your main number, the third person would get engaged. But with a hosted system, we're not limited by the BT landline quantity. So we can queue up the incoming calls. As we see 3 calls coming in here, they will be queued and no one gets engaged or busy. They all get through and they can all be dealt with. So here's Bob and his team ready to handle those calls. So not limited now by the number of lines that we rent for our phone systems. Now, just to take that a bit further, when those calls come in, we could put in place IVR or auto attendant. So that gives you the ability to route calls even more efficiently rather than ringing through, if that's what you wanted to do. And for smaller business, that's proved a good way to filter the calls. So here we have Bob and his team ready to take those calls. And when the different callers come in, they would then press a button to route themselves through to the correct department. So first one coming in here, presses 1 for reception, pressing 2 for new customer inquiries, maybe 3 for the accounts department. And so we can put the IVR in there to help that out and go through to individual people within the team, within our businesses, and within Bob's business in this case. Now, we don't have to go through to individuals, because whether the call comes through the IVR or does come in ringing into our businesses directly, and for Bob now, he has the functionality of the flexible ring groups and queues. So here, a call comes in, and we've got our customers here on the left. They're all ringing in. Our first point of call may be the reception or this first employee who Bob wants to take all the calls, and only then if she is busy or unavailable in this particular case would it hop on to Clive here, and he could take the next call. And if another call comes in, then Bob, as the overflow, can take that call. So he has that ability, and even outsourcing his calls to answering facilities such as Moneypenny or virtual PAs who can be involved in the ring groups. And also, you think of these staff members, remember, they can be anywhere. They can be working at home or in the office on any device, anywhere, and answer these calls, and the call routing will hop on until it finds someone to answer that important call from our customers. Now, Bob also knows that with his new system, he can take his incoming call handling to the next level with call center capabilities. Before, these were well out the reach of the small SME, but not anymore, not with a hosted solution. Call center capability can be embedded in there too. And that will give Bob full stats on what's happening within the business, how his agents are performing. It will give supervisors full view and control via wall boards to display calls coming in, how many have been answered, abandoned, etc., all quite easily if call center is a requirement. Now, Clive, who I mentioned earlier, he's a new employee. So here we need to do a bit of staff training. So what can help Bob with his staff training? Well, Clive here, he's in a call talking to a customer. Now, what can be enabled on the system per user or across the board for the whole system is call recording. So at the end of the day, during his training, what Bob can do is listen to the call recordings just for Clive and see how he's been getting on. Or he can be talking with him. Did you have any problems today? Yes, this particular call this afternoon with this particular customer was a bit awkward. I didn't know what to say. Bob can look it up, find it, and listen to it. But better than that, he can provide some live training for Clive. So what Bob can do is listen in the background to the call that's taking place and help Clive if he needs to, because at a press of a button, Bob can whisper in the ear of Clive and say or tell him what he needs to be saying to this customer to help the situation, calm them down, or what they need to do, etc. Now, if it really does get a bit sticky and Clive really does need some extra help, then obviously Bob could whisper to Clive, well, tell the customer you'll get your manager in on the call. And then with another press of a button, Bob can then really fully barge into the call and speak to that customer and bring everything back under control. So something that we can use for staff training, very useful, is the call recording, or even for listening back to calls where we had to take a lot of detail down to put together a proposal or whatever. Before, with PBXs, telephone systems, call recording, very clunky, very, very expensive, but now all embedded if we wish to use it. And just moving on now to CRM. If you are using a CRM system of some sort, then obviously you're keen to keep things organized within your business. So why not link it to the telephone system so that when a client calls in, up pops their record, you can see the details of that client, the activity, what you said to them last, what information you've got about that customer, and obviously then make notes about this phone call straight into the CRM and plan that next activity. So with a click of a mouse, this is all now easy to do. And to make outbound calls from any of your CRMs, just call up the client, search for the client, click their number, and the phone will go off hook and call that customer. Be that you're using your mobile, your desk phone, your laptop, it doesn't matter what the device is, it will control the phone and make the call. And click to dial will work from Microsoft apps as well, such as Outlook, Word, Excel, in web browsers. So searching for businesses, Google, search a business, phone number pops up, click the number and you will dial it, and any browser-based apps. So that is really helping make our staff and ourselves more efficient in the way that we work, and more accurate, because obviously it's just saves us dialing manually the numbers. Let's just have another poll here regarding Microsoft Teams as we come to the end nearly. So does your business use Microsoft Teams at all? Let me just gauge if you are using Teams. Now, if you've not considered it, no, but you are considering implementing it in the future, or yes, but not using it for voice, or yes, and using it with voice. Thanks, Steve. So there's our results. Pretty split there between not actually considering it, yes, but not for voice, 31%, and some are using it for voice. Well done. So thanks, Steve. You can move that. So just to say, if you are using Teams as your collaboration tool, which is what it is, it's a dashboard to pull everything together to help us work efficiently, or you are considering it, then there's no need to jump in and out of Teams to make those calls externally. We can now link the voice right in to the Teams. As you can see from a little screenshot there, we've got the calls tab right within Teams. So not only if we're working on projects within a team, we're file sharing, we're doing the chat by instant message through Teams, and now we can use our voice calls and all built in to Teams. And by doing that, you get all the features that we spoke about that a phone system, modern phone system will do, but they're accessible right there from within Teams. Now I need to be careful really what I say here, I suppose, but there is a much better option, let's put it that way, than using the Microsoft dialing plans. If you are using the voice in Teams and you're doing it with Microsoft, because you get more flexibility, a much better call minutes plan by not going down the Microsoft route, and talking to a communications provider here in the UK that actually specialise in doing this. So the benefits of doing that, you're supported by a UK-based team, such as PS Tech here, that can help you set up your voice on your Teams and manage it for you, do the number porting and look after it and program it up instead of doing it yourself, the DIY route, which can lead to a bit of frustration if you're doing that with Microsoft and just topping it up with your credit card, which is what it is. So it's not very good at all. It's a bit clunky. So let's just have our final poll. So we've covered a few of the features that we can really apply. So maybe just to tick more than one if you think about the features we've discussed, just to get your feedback really on the ones we've covered today in our workshop. So which features of the ones we've covered would prove to be the most beneficial in your business? And tick multiple ones that you think would work for you, what you liked the look of or the sound of. Just give you a few moments to do that. That's it. I think it looks like nearly there. Just a few more changes coming in. I'll see. Okay, Steve, if we can just share that. So a spread across there, multiple devices comes out top. I would agree with you there. It's so much easier to have a choice, isn't it, of which device that we're using, and then staying in touch with our voicemails, immediately being emailed to us. The flexibility of the ring groups, etc., and linking to CRM. So thanks for that little poll there. That gives us some indication of what is of interest to our clients. Thank you very much. So now what I'd like to do is thank you for your attention if you didn't fall asleep during that bit of my presentation. And we hand back now to Paul with further benefits of using a VoIP telephony solution. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Kevin, and for sharing all that information with us. So hopefully you can see a new slide there. Kevin's just spoken really about how choosing the right communications platform for your business can really deliver huge benefits, especially when it comes to productivity of our employees and in providing the best possible service for our customers. Now, planning for the modern workplace will mean that we have to think about the changes in how our teams are working now and how that may change in the future, and also about how our customers will expect to interact with us. And that is all going to change as people adapt as well. Now, the great news is, as we've just learned from Kevin, that the big switch off from BT isn't actually bad news or a roadblock. Instead, with information like we've just given you, you can see that there are plenty of good options for improving on where we are now, let alone preparing for the future. Now, I just want to cover a couple of additional benefits that you will receive by choosing the right communications solution and the right partner to help you deliver that into your new business model. Now, Kevin talked about the word hosted telephony, and that came up a few times. I just want to focus very briefly on the word hosted. What does this mean for you? Well, I can tell you straight away what hosted doesn't mean. It doesn't mean expensive. Traditional phone systems have either been expensive or inflexible, and sometimes both, and that's not great for you. But the word hosted turns all that on its head. So there is no expensive equipment to put on the wall somewhere in your offices, with expensive phone lines coming in to give you that multiple call capacity. There's no expensive installation costs and disruptive cabling. There's no expensive ongoing maintenance contracts to make sure your phone system is kept current and running and up to date. Instead, the benefits of hosted communications is that it is a low cost, predictable subscription. That includes all of the maintenance, the updates, the new features as they're released. It includes all that functionality that Kevin was just talking about to give you a flexible platform to manage your conversations over. And that low subscription also includes the ability for rapid changes when you need them. So for instance, you might have a new employee who needs their own phone extension, or a new department in the business as you grow that needs a new menu option, or a new marketing campaign that needs a new inbound phone number. These can all be delivered quickly with zero pain. So all you need to do is reach out to your communications partner, provider, and they do the rest in an efficient and expedient way. The other broad benefit to your business is about choosing the right communication solution for that modern workplace is that it contributes greatly to your business continuity planning. Now, I bet, like me, you've probably got two to-do lists. Yeah, you've got that one that you keep in front of you on a daily basis. Hopefully you update it daily and you use that to prioritize what's important, what's urgent, and so forth. But then there's that second to-do list. And that's the one that's either buried on some disused folder on your computer somewhere, or it's tucked away at the back of your head like me, and occasionally you get that sharp mental prod from it. And on that second to-do list, that's where it reads, write the continuity plan for the business. Now, this is one of those tasks that is important because we may rarely need to activate such a plan, but when we do, obviously it is a very high priority. But because we don't often have to do it, it ends up on the back burner. But in March 2020, we all needed to activate and review our continuity plans. So did your continuity plan include pandemic as a possible cause to activate your business continuity plan? Well, the facts are, not wishing to scaremonger, but natural disasters are increasing. Climate change is causing more disruption to people's lives through erratic weather events. And the pandemic we're facing right now, even for the next few years, is going to continue to disrupt life. And sometimes these things may not affect us directly, but indirectly, they can do as well. And then there's also the personal things that affect us and knock onto our business. If you are hospitalized, for instance, what plans do you have for your business to keep functioning? Who has access to the bank? Who pays the suppliers, the salaries? Who keeps the relationships with your key customers going? There's 100 and more things that could be impacted. In fact, just recently, I was talking to a customer who'd just come out of hospital after 10 days for being treated for a fractured skull and broken ribs because he was knocked off of his road bike by a drunk, drug-taking driver. it hopefully shouldn't happen to us, but we do need to plan. So even when there is disruption, we all need to keep communicating, and our businesses need to keep functioning. And your customers will still want to depend on being able to contact you when they need to. So are you ready? Choosing the right communication system for your business and having it designed with your business processes as a key criteria. By doing these things, you're designing resilience into your business. And when times are good, well, yeah, that is good, isn't it? And we think things can't go wrong. Let me just share another quote with you. Spike Milligan, he once said, "We haven't got a plan, so nothing can go wrong." Well, change is happening across the business world. So now is the time to look at your processes with your eye on the future. So I hope we've stimulated your thinking about how your teams communicate with one another and how you communicate with your customers. Hopefully we've informed you as well about the upcoming changes to phone and broadband provisions in this country as well. Now, if we leave you with anything today, it is that there's been a lot of change in recent months. And as we've highlighted, more change is on the way. But there's one thing that hasn't changed in the last few months, and hopefully it will never change, and it's that people love to talk, us included. They love to talk about things that they're passionate about, their plans, their successes, their business. And being prepared to help our customers being able to do that, talk to us, well, that's only a recipe for success. Your business will thrive when you are actively talking to and listening to your customers. So next steps. In the next few days, we'll be emailing you your free copy of our ebook, Planning Your Transition. And in this book, you're going to find practical help on how to plan for the changes you'll need to make over the coming months to your communications strategy. We'll also make sure we follow up with you as well to make sure you got your ebook, but also to make sure you're taking advantage of that free review that we are giving you. And you'll see again the link on the screen there at the bottom there. So please book that online, either do that now or a bit later, but we will follow up as well to make sure that that works well for you. Now, finally, we did say we would have a quick Q&A session. It's taken a few minutes longer than expected, so apologies for that. Steve, have we got any questions that perhaps we can share and answer the questions to now? Otherwise, we can leave some of those to people's personal reviews.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got a couple of minutes. So I have one question. It says, if we have fibre with Sky Broadband, is that okay? Do I need to do anything? Kev, perhaps you want to answer that one?
Yes, thank you. So yes, if you've got fibre coming into the premises, then that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because everything by way of infrastructure needs to be on fibre eventually. So if you've got that already, that's great. And if you're running, I don't know if that's good for your internet access, but I don't know what you're doing about your phone. I don't know who that is, but yeah, just remember your phone will not be able to plug into a telephone socket. It would need to be an IP phone and run through that fibre connection.
Probably also worth thinking, Kevin, as well. Some people confuse fibre broadband with the way it's marketed. Not all broadband connections are actually fibre optic to the property. So it may be you're on a fibre optic to cabinet connection as well. So that will be something you'll need to be aware of.
Yes, that's it. Thank you, Paul. Yep.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Another question was, will hosted telephones work over my existing broadband, or do I need a separate connection?
It's a good question, and again, down to really the customer circumstances. Very bespoke question. If it's just a smaller business and you've got good internet connection, we do a few checks on that, and then your voice can go on the existing broadband connection, or share the broadband connection with your general internet email access for that. If it's a larger business, we have a look at that, because maybe it's better to keep them separate, the voice from your normal internet activity.
Excellent. Thanks, Kev. Just one more here. It says, will my existing phone system be able to have VoIP added?
So another good question. It depends on the phone system itself. So we would have to look at that. If it was a really old PBX that only has analog connections coming in. So it's a PBX with needs ISDN lines, for example, and you can't even upgrade it to voice over IP. You can get gateways. We've got a solution for it with a gateway and SIP trunks, which basically are voice over IP lines down an internet connection, and you don't have to rip out and replace at this moment in time. There is a migration path.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Kev. Okay, I think we've sort of come to the end of our time. If there are any questions that you've raised, we will look at these and we'll contact you and answer those for you. So, Paul, I think if you want to wrap up.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Kevin as well, and Steve for your help as well. Hopefully, we've answered all your questions that you thought of. But as I said, we can cover more of those off at your review. So just finally on screen, you'll see the link there to book your free review. Please do that as soon as possible, because obviously there's quite a few in attendance today. We want to make sure we can talk to you in a timely fashion. Also, keep an eye on us on social media. It sounds like a YouTube thing now, doesn't it? Just click like, subscribe. But we do keep people up to date on there, and you'll find that quite useful as well. But we do look forward to speaking to you in the very near future. So once again, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Anna, thank you from me. Bye.
Good night.